Hello traders, Day Trader Matt here of businesswithtrading.com, doing a trading strategy recap for the 18th of March, Wednesday. And today was an interesting day. The morning wasn't that great, but the afternoon actually turned into an awesome day. I always say I trade maybe 1 to 2% of afternoons, and I wasn't going to trade this afternoon, but I came back and I started trading it, and it turned into a phenomenal afternoon. But anyway, let's get started, and let's get started with our trading room. This is where we always start the videos. Well, the market did gap down a little bit this morning, and pretty much moved sideways. We were we took 2 trades. We were 1 for 1, and we ended up dropping 1.75 points in the market. We kind of watched the first little bit of action. We got long down here, right here to be exact, and we were able to ride that up, and we took profits right up here. Market chopped around, and we decided, let's get long when the market comes back down here. Well, price ended up coming down, and it just, ended up getting weaker. So we ended up getting stopped out of this, and then price started to chop around and get weaker. It is what it is. It's one of those days, and this afternoon, if you look at it, price chopped around, got weaker, and then just started to take off. It was just a really great afternoon to stick around and trade. I came back and I saw the market, and I had to jump in and start trading, and we got some really good positions. I want to talk about our swing trade and our option service real quick. In our swing trade service, we were able to pick up soybeans. We took along in the morning time. We were able to ride that up, take profit, and then we also, when it came back, we were able to get back in and ride that up. And so far, we're in some nice profit. I talked about last night looking for 66 minimum. We got that. The price hit it, came down, and then just jumped up. So it's looking pretty interesting, actually. Last night we also tried to take a trade on the dollar. It would have been nice to be in this. But we were able to last night. This was last night. Okay, so we were able to jump in the market up here, and I'm sorry. Actually, we got long over here, and we were able to take profit down here. And then the price came back up, and we were out down here. So it is what it is. I was thinking price either takes off to the downside or goes higher. It actually just chopped around and then dropped. It was very interesting right here. It dropped and came back. We'll have to wait and see what it does. And one stock that I've talked about it a few times already. We highlighted it when we entered the trade. Is Mylan, and this is just a monster. We were talking about 67 as our first target. We were 67 to 70 first target. 82 half is a target for longer term. Right now we're up a little over 2 times our money. So the stock's doing really well, and it's just really making the option service look that much better. So I wanted to talk about those trades a little bit. Sometimes it's hard in a 2.5 hour period to always be profitable, to never take a loss. This month we've taken more losses than I would like. But they're manageable losses. And I talk about this a lot. I don't like having examples to talk about because that means I'm losing some money. But I guess while I have them, you might as well talk about them. You know, I'm not gonna not talk about him. You know, I guess intended double negative there. You know, because losses are part of trading. You know, and a lot of traders don't know how to act when they take a loss. They don't know how to react to losses. They don't know how to act to losses. You know, all that, don't be a reactionary trader, left brain, right brain trader, all that's just a bunch of bullshit. You know, really, what trading is all about, you need to have the proper mindset to trade. That's obvious. But everybody is going to react to something. Everyone's going to experience fear. I'll give a shit who you are. Paul Tudor Jones, one of the best traders in the world. Me, I consider myself an amateur trader, just because I think a professional is, in the trading arena is 20, 25 plus years. That's what I look at it. That's my definition. By many people's definition, book definitions, I'm a professional. Or take someone who just started 6 months trading. Everyone's going to experience fear a little bit differently. The top trader, me, trading for 13, actually a little more than about 15 years. About 16 years of screen time, but about 15 years. And someone who's just been trading for 6 months. We're all going to experience that a little bit differently, but we're all going to experience that. It's how we experience it that really defines us as traders. Being able to have an unsuccessful trade and come back. Being able to have a shitty morning and then come back, FOMC. I left the office, came back a few hours later, a little bit after 2. I placed some option trades before 12. Left the office, came back a little after 2 and saw the market, and I was like, I gotta trade it, and really, turn it into something phenomenal. That's what trading's all about. Being able to bounce back. One of my favorite athletes of all time, and I grew up watching this guy, which was amazing, was Michael Jordan. Some people liked him, some people didn't like him, some people made fun of him just because they thought he was a glory hog or something, or I don't know, I have a cousin that just made fun of him all the time. I don't know if he did it just to try to get under my skin, or he just really felt that way, I don't know. But, I remember the playoffs one year, and I think it was against the Utah Jazz, I believe. But his teammates had to carry him off the bus into the locker room, carry him from the locker room into the arena, and he just somehow fed off the energy of the crowd or something, or he just willed himself to play. And he was magical. He'd go out and get 40 points. And then after the game, they'd have to carry him off the court because he was really, really sick with some kind of flu virus, or I don't know what it was, but it was something like that, like a really, really bad flu virus. And that is what I mean by being able to bounce back. He knew that one of his famous quotes that he used to always say is that he would always look up in the crowd and see a child with his father and think that this is the first time he's going to ever see me play in real life, and the only time he's ever going to see me play in real life. So I want to do my best, so that way he has a good time. And I was like, such an interesting perspective. That's what he is playing for. So he's playing for something bigger than himself. And as traders, we're doing something bigger than ourselves. For me personally, I make money trading, great. But at the same hand, my family has a better life. I'm able to give to charities and, help out. When I see a cause that I feel strongly about, I can say, hey, I like that. I want to give some money to that. Or, family members are, doing jump for heart or, something like that for their school or charity or church or something. I can give to that. Or if I just want to go somewhere on a trip, I don't have to look at, well, I have to manage this and do I get time off and, blah, 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 50 other things, and I might shoot myself instead. Just something crazy. So anyway, I know I'm getting off on a tangent, but I wanted to talk about, today in a different perspective. Because we have had a couple unsuccessful days, or more than a couple, like 3 or 4. And it's important to talk about. It's important to say, hey, look at this. Yeah, we did lose a little bit of money, but it was manageable. We didn't lose 10 points. We lost 1 3/4 points. That's nothing. Then when you have something that you are able to make money on, it's all better. It's even better. And that's really what I wanted to talk about. Hopefully it made sense to you what I did to talk about. If you guys want to take your trading to the next level, trading course, coaching, or anything, I'm running some specials for March Madness. It's going to go throughout the entire month of March. If you're interested, check out the links below the video. Give me a phone call. Whatever. It all works. So with that, thanks for watching the video. Have a great rest of your day. And I'll see you back here in the markets. Thank you.